Our world is lost in unnecessary fear and hurt. Our systems seem scientifically engineered to make you small, powerless, and always waiting for the next great leader who will fix the problems around us. Worse, we're witnessing neighbor versus neighbor while warfare breaks out around our family tables. But you have access to a spirit, a strength that enlarges and empowers you. Even better, you don't need to wait for the next big movement. You can heal the world. It's time for governance by grace. Welcome to Gracearchy with Jim Babka.
Jim, this topic is teed up for us. It is so amazing. I mean, we've been talking conflict machine in the media and all of that, and with the DeSantis announcement that came out last night, which I have not watched and I won't yet, everybody is apoplectic right now. The regime media is, I'm sure they're looking for dollars. I mean, they're trying to drive advertising costs right now, through the roof. And I know you've got something to say about this, so bring us in. What is it?
Well, first off, I want to make a disclaimer because we are talking about DeSantis' announcement. And the one thing I'm the least interested in is actually DeSantis' announcement.
Yeah, we'll talk about that later.
Yeah, I don't care. I also want to say up front, I recognize that DeSantis is a culture war actor. He is one of the people who's making things worse in that area. We'll have to get to that. And if he has any semblance of a campaign, the opportunities to do that are going to present themselves. I have a great deal that I want to say at some point about Disney. The whole thing that happened with Disney and the other thing is happening that he's doing inside the schools needs to be addressed. Yeah. And conservatives are not going to like what I have to say about that. So we will get to it.
We'll get to it.
Today's not that day. Today's not that day. We just did 2 episodes where we sat and talked about the media was a big player in both of those episodes. The first one was entirely about the situation in the media. And we're kind of on a kick here. We're on a roll. And I want to play off of those previous 2 episodes. Let me throw out a quick definition. The conflict machine is a system where we make decisions by fighting with one another. It's a replacement word for our politics. At the base element of what goes on in our society is coercion. We use aggression to get things done. So anytime a law is passed, a regulation is imposed, that ultimately comes with the willingness on the part of people who are tasked with enforcing it to, if necessary, kill people. You say that's extreme, but it's really not, because at the end of the day, if somebody resists, if somebody doesn't go along with being arrested, doesn't comply, if they don't want to pay the fines or the penalties because their happiness has been diminished, they can suffer death. That is on the table at that point. We do not send these people out with guns for no reason. So we have to recognize that even the simplest law could escalate into a death penalty. But it always is the case that these things are going to violate the happiness and harmony and prosperity of individuals. And that's grounded in a principle called human respect, which says that every time you use violence or theft or some other form of material coercion against a person, you are going to see a subsequent drop in their happiness, harmony, and prosperity. And that always is the case.
And so what we're saying is the regime media, in fact, the media at large right now,
stirs everybody up.
Stirs everybody up to its advantage and to everybody else's lessening of human respect.
Correct. And this is the system operating as it is supposed to work. It's exactly how it works. Now, the conflict machine is fueled by the activities of the participants in it. Politicians like Ron DeSantis, Donald Trump, Joe Biden are part of that. And then so is the regime media. And the media, in fact, you've heard the phrase that the way that you sell newspapers is through conflict, right? Or through, fires or whatever. It's all bad news. Yep. Bad news is what sells. Okay. And all of this triggers people's adrenal systems, gets them in an agitated state. All of this causes conflict amongst people. So the final equation of the conflict machine is that at the end of the day, we end up fighting each other instead of focusing on problems. And if it gets so bad that people start to cheer for Schadenfreude. which
Yes.
means that they want the failure, they want the pain, the misery of their opponents more than they want their preferred policy preferences.
That's just a recipe for disaster because it's a downward spiral that can't end.
Yeah, and we don't have to make decisions this way. You know, for example, I did not have to. You happen to be many states away, so it would be very difficult to do this, but I did not have to put a gun to your head to show up today. And nobody
Right,
that's
yeah.
watching this right now needed a gun put to their head. They all thought that they would be happier coming here to get this information. Like, this is how they chose to spend their time right now. They made a
Right.
free will decision. But your taxes, regulations, all these things are not free will decisions. And those things can be used to do things that you abhor, stuff that you cannot stand. And so your
Yeah.
happiness or your relative harmony, the harmony is always being degraded by this conflict machine.
Always.
And it's been getting worse, in my humble opinion, in recent years. We're in a time right now, I would say it's not quite as bad as the pandemic. We're at a time that I think approaches late 1960s, early 1970s in terms of intensity. And we can point to a time like that. We can point to the Civil War, which clearly was worse. We can point to the COVID, but we are in a fragile state where people feel that the center does not hold right now. Everything's kind of coming apart at the edges.
Talking about late Vietnam War, late civil rights era, right?
Yes. You know, there's things, buildings were getting, blown up. There was terrorism all over
Yep.
the place. That time it was the left that was doing it.
Yep.
Okay.
So let's get to this Vanity Fair meme because
here we go. We go. I want to talk about how the media responded to this because this plugs right into what we covered 2 episodes ago. It really, really does. It's like part B to what we were talking about with the regime media and the fact that the meteor is coming for these dinosaurs. Ron DeSantis will formally announce his 2024 bid with Elon Musk because apparently David Duke wasn't available.
I know.
I mean, like the first half of that is actually a news headline, the way it should be written, right? He's going to formally announce his bid. You might have even said he was going to do it on Twitter, which would have been an objective statement. But they said with Elon Musk because apparently David Duke wasn't available. Now, I want to know, is in the fevered imagination of the people that write for Vanity Fair, because this is incredibly irresponsible in my humble opinion, is it Ron DeSantis or Elon Musk who is David Duke? Because the syntax of this thing, it's not entirely clear. It's not well written. It's not like they are journalists or something and they took a writing course. It's not clear reading it who actually is the comparable to David Duke.
Yeah, the comparison there. I don't think it matters as long as they can trigger the conflict about it. I've seen Axios and The Atlantic and other people who've had an opinion on this, shall we say, because it's an opinion piece, who are not willing to take a position, and they say it's actually DeSantis co-starring in his own announcement with Musk.
So, and from what I understand, he largely did. But David Duke.
But David Duke
was a grand wizard in the Ku Klux Klan. David Duke gave that up for a career in politics, playing the part of a white separatist, concerned about the loss of so-called white culture. That's what he did, okay? I don't know. I've not seen Elon Musk do anything remotely similar. I know he's done some crazy things. I know he's done some things that are objectionable. I already said we're going to have some things to get into. Ron DeSantis is a culture warrior, and I don't like the things he's done either in that arena. But now, in what way could you say that either one of these guys is a grand wizard?
Well, exactly, right? And it's not really about that. It's just about the media being able to bite back against their own miserable failure over the last several years. I mean, look at Fox News.
Yeah, because there is the old statement not to pick a fight with people who buy their ink by the barrel.
Yep.
So this is kind of the modern equivalent, right? These
Yes.
organizations, these dinosaur media enterprises are all dying. And that's the main thing they're angry about. We'll get into that in a moment. That's the main focus of what I want to talk about today.
And, hey, Musk is beating them at their own game right now. So,
yes,
there is a little bit of that, too.
Yeah, he's able to effectively troll them. That's what he's doing.
Yep.
Okay. You don't have to root for either of these guys here. You don't have to be a fan of either of their work. You don't have to agree with them personally to recognize that this cheapens dialogue. Absolutely. It is an exaggeration. There's a rule that you can't, that in a social media dialogue, eventually somebody's going to invoke the Nazis, right?
Oh, right, right.
Or Adolf Hitler, right?
It's a corollary to Murphy's Law, right? In that same book.
This is a corollary to that, right? How long will it take for the left to invoke David Duke or the Klan? How long will it take for you to call somebody racist?
Yep.
Because that's not the central message here. So CNN, we could pick on, you're right. We could pick on the Atlantic. We could pick on Axios. There's a whole bunch of people we could pick on. They all largely were telling the exact same story. And the first version of it I came across was the CNN version.
Right.
And
which is a good one.
I enjoy picking on CNN.
Yep.
Because to me, they're very emblematic and everybody understands them. Like the others are kind of out there. Not everybody's like read Axios or something, but we can do CNN and everybody knows who we're talking about. So they did put out a column. And I want to explain what the thesis of all of these pieces, but especially the CNN piece, is that they didn't come and ask permission of the media. The DeSantis campaign was supposed to do this the right way, which was to use the standard media, and they didn't do it. So let me share. I've got 2 quotes I want to share. And here's the first one from the CNN piece. Quote, this is referring to the DeSantis campaign. Respond to the unmoderated social media jungle while disdaining traditional standards of conduct and governance. So going on CNN, going on Twitter is an unmoderated social media jungle. That's crime number 1. And it disdains traditional standards of conduct and governance. Now, I'm looking for a John Houseman type character to stand up, in a full 3-piece suit, maybe with a pipe, saying, this is really, really, really bad here that we have this happen. It's like, who's the conservative here?
Exactly.
These guys are saying, we had traditions, we had rules.
Well, they blew those traditions years ago, though, Jim. Right?
Yeah. So what is it that they're really, really upset about? The Atlantic, Axios, and CNN. What is it they're really upset about?
They got their panties in a wad. They lost the advertising dollars.
It wasn't done on their platforms. They did not. They're not the gatekeepers anymore.
They weren't the gatekeepers, right?
And I've been waiting for the election where they weren't going to be the gatekeepers. I kept hoping it was going to be the next one. Folks, it just arrived.
Well, you are
They're
a
not
prophet,
the gatekeepers
man.
anymore.
You know how to call them.
So, there's a rule that first you ignore them, then you attack them, then they win, right?
Yeah.
This is the attack stage. They know they're in trouble.
Yep.
And I find the fact that they were so bothered, the prose in the CNN piece, and we will put the link up, is just precious. You really should read some of the quotes that are in there. I do not have time to do the entire piece justice. The analysis, by the way, wasn't entirely wrong. There were some things about this that are interesting strategic questions that could work or backfire for DeSantis. But I can't remember which one of the pieces it was, whether it was CNN or the Atlantic, but they were actually concerned. Maybe it was Axios. I'm not sure which one it was. They were concerned for Fox News. Like, poor Fox News. Can you believe that he kind of stuck a finger in the eye of Fox News?
Yeah.
He was supposed to go there to announce. He could have at least gone there.
Yep.
The irony is just delicious. Here's another gem.
Yeah.
This is describing the announcement atmosphere that CNN anticipated. Quote, a febrile circus of untamed free speech, conspiracy theories, and unverifiable information. I mean, I love good prose like that. That sentence would have jumped out at me no matter where it was. Okay.
Well, they'd never have said it.
How many times a week do you come across the word febrile? This is fantastic.
Right.
A febrile circus of untamed free speech. So untamed free speech, the ability to sit here and talk here. We're engaged in a circus. I mean, we got clowns in the background and the whole 9 yards, right?
Yeah. Febrile as it is.
Conspiracy theories and unverifiable information. This was a presidential announcement campaign.
Yeah. There's a conspiracy that he's announcing for president. Yeah. How much of a twist do your panties have to be in, CNN?
Yes.
You didn't see this coming? I mean,
so they're so upset about this, and they don't want to be irrelevant anymore. This is them saying, not only did you not skip us, but you're actually saying we're irrelevant. And this can't happen. We can't have this.
The alligator tears, or maybe they're crocodile tears. I don't know. What do they have in Florida? Crocodiles or alligators?
And by the way, I'm not sitting here enjoying. This is a moment in time we've been waiting for, where they do not have control of the entire narrative, and real people can begin to talk.
About time.
And I have to say, I'm hopeful that there is a different thing happening on YouTube and elsewhere where people are beginning to speak, and that it's very, very important that we protect this. So whether Ron DeSantis announces on Twitter or Tucker Carlson goes and does a show on Twitter doesn't really even matter to me all that much. What is interesting to me is that there are now opportunities to step outside that domain. There's an opportunity to get your news from other locations. There's an opportunity for a dialogue. So Russell Brand kind of came to the United States, toured the country early in April. And he did meet with Tucker Carlson, who still was at Fox News at the time that they spent time together, and got in the studio and had a rather robust conversation, because politically they disagree on several things. But they had a fun, engaging, robust conversation. In fact, Tucker gave Russell a tour of his house and his yard and the whole 9 yards. There's a funny, even a really cute little story in there. I'm not going to share here because it's just a tiny, tiny bit off color. But they got along really well. And he also went and did Bill Maher's show. But he didn't spend all of his time having conversations with people who were in the institutional media. He went off and talked to people who weren't as well, just like he's not. And he said that across the board, all these conversations had one characteristic that he did not find. And he has personal hard disdain for MSNBC because he's on the left and he thinks MSNBC misrepresents the left. He said there was real dialogue, real back and forth, real disagreement that was done in a spirit, and this was the word he used, of real collegiality.
Oh, interesting.
I think that's what the potential is here. And I think the conflict machine actors, and some of them are on YouTube. There are people who are going to talk about DeSantis's launch, and they're going to tell you the same thing you would have been able to get if you turned on Fox and MSNBC and CNN. They're going to give you the exact same type of useless, partisan-driven conflict machine coverage.
Yeah, we don't need the repeaters. We need innovators.
But real discussion about what's happening, about the issues that matter, that affect you, about the social condition in which we find ourselves, by the implications of various things that are happening in history right in front of our faces. All of those things matter. And I wanted to sit down and spend 20 minutes with you today, Bill, talking about this, because this is the part of the story that's not really getting covered. This is a positive development away from the conflict machine and towards an era of real human respect, where individuals are speaking to one another. And grace comes about when I recognize that, I don't agree with you. And maybe even I find some of the things that you're saying revolting, but I'm agreeing to talk. That Vanity Fair headline is anti-grace. And the shrills and shrieks of the medias about their irrelevance and saying that having a conversation is a jungle. Those are not grace moments. So I want to encourage people that this is good news. This is a sign of really good things. I've been waiting for the election where the regime media was not calling the tune anymore. And there was evidence they'd already lost a lot of grip in 2020. But I have to say, if they're complaining about what we do here in the YouTube space together as a nation, as a people, if that is bothering them that much, if they're complaining about the fact that they did not have control of Twitter and Elon's the one that got the interview, then you can know the death rattle of the conflict machine has begun.
I'm with you on this. We've been here before. After the Civil War, tabloid journalism took off, and you could print anything, and it was the same thing. It was trying to sell papers based on conflict. Mm-hmm. And out of that conflict and that media frenzy, which was still in print, came a publication that's still around today. and still reporting, like investigating and reporting the way that it ought to be reported. And I'll leave it up to viewers to be able to figure out what that is. But there's your teaser. So
Okay.
go and try to find it. It's a Pulitzer Prize winner, and it's still with us after more than 100 years. So, Jim, what you're saying is so accurate. We've got precedent, we've got opportunity. And I think more than anything else, you know what? We have these little tiny microphones that we can use to talk to people who are willing to listen to something new.
Yeah.
So do we want to say no grace for the mainstream media right now?
No, I want to say that they should be allowed to go gracefully into the night. And we should expect that their pain is going to be expressed right in front of us. This is the first time I've seen it so obviously expressed in this exact fashion. And I think that this actually is a good sign for the health of our overall dialogue. But yeah, they're going to go into the night, and I don't think they're going to go quietly. I don't think they're even going to go. I think they're going to get very nasty and litigious, and I mean that in the sense that they're going to try to pass laws to suppress what we've got going on here, to try to preserve and protect what little they have left and what's dwindling over there. But I don't think it's going to last. I'm saying this today as a message of hope. I'm saying that we can all move past this. It's starting to happen, and this is proof. They wouldn't be objecting if they didn't believe that the method and model that they've been following, if they didn't believe that wasn't in trouble.